Well, hello there. I am going to talk about my philosophy of education with you today, especially as it relates to technology. So you can see my name's Tyler. The Rock is the middle name. That's my character's name in Dungeons and Dragons that I love right now. And so, why not put it as my surname or whatever, subname? I'm going to go through some of these questions with you guys. So as far as like what I believe technology and how I believe it fits into the learning environment, I am a huge fan of technology. I'm lucky because I grew up doing technology a little bit in high school and especially a lot in college. And so I've seen it on both sides, right? I've seen it on the learning side as well as the teaching side. And so I've just been blessed with knowing how to use technology, but also how to like effectively use it. And so as far as technology fitting in the learning environment, it really amplifies us as teachers and helps us really help students reach higher levels, right? I think it really gives us extra resources so that we can achieve more as long as we're using it correctly. And so I definitely believe it does fit into a learning environment if used correctly, which we'll talk about in a sec. But you need to make sure that you're using technology because first off, it's relevant to kids, right? Like students need to be able to learn how to do these things and how to use technology properly in order to be successful in the real world. There's not very many jobs left where you're not using technology during work. I used to work at Target, and that was something that like our employees all had access to a mobile device where we had to teach them how to do different things on it. And so having that intuitive, being able to use technology is super important, and that comes from the classroom, being able to teach students how to properly use technology. It definitely fits in the learning environment. As far as my philosophy of education changing from this class, I have always been a huge advocate of technology, but I did fall into the category of, oh, well, this is now online, so it's all good now, right? And instead of starting from the base of like, you have to have a solid lesson plan before you move on. And like, I've been a victim of that, or not a victim, I've been guilty of that, where I've just loaded something up. Right, I loaded something up on the canvas. It was just like I created a copy, and then they were just typing away. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm a good teacher. But then later on, I realized after talking to students and looking at results, like it's the same as a piece of paper if you do it that way, right? Like it doesn't change anything, didn't transform anything. And so it is important that you use technology correctly in that aspect. Okay, as far as integration strategies that are useful to me, it's definitely being able to keep kids engaged, but also I really love the whole like self-directed learning and like social contracts, and so I'm definitely planning on creating more social contracts and giving students creative freedom to show me that they learned something, right? So instead of just doing a typical like here's a quiz, like do your multiple choice questions, I plan on like having students integrate like what they've learned into some sort of presentation with me. And that's where the social contract or the contract comes in, is I'm going to have students, we'll work it out together and say, hey, like, how do you want to show me what you learned after today? And some students might say, oh, I want to make a short video. Or some might say, I want to make a picture chart. Or some might say, oh, I want to like type up a response for you, right? And giving them those options, it helps them feel like they're taking control of their learning. But also it gives me a chance to actually know that they're learning something, right? Instead of a multiple choice where it's like, oh, like, yeah, a lot of people made this question right, but maybe it's because I like had it too easy, or it was just like lucky guesses, right? Like, there's a lot of different things that's a whole rabbit hole, right? But yeah, the advantage of technology in your classroom, I've mentioned this earlier, but I'm able to see what students are doing, right? I'm able to kind of see their screens, but I'm also able to like let students do different things, right? So instead of like just a worksheet, I'm able to allow students to go research. And this generation specifically, I learned this in a conference last year, but this generation specifically, they like to go down rabbit holes, right? Like if they get passionate about something, they're going to deep dive, they're going to do some crazy research, and they're going to find things out. It's just a matter of getting them to spark that creativity and that interest. And so with technology, it's really easy to like differentiate for students, right? And say, hey, like you get to do this assignment, but you get to do this assignment, and you get to do this assignment. And so there's definitely a ton of advantages with technology in the classroom as far as that goes. But also, like, students like to see things that are relevant in their lives. And so they know technology is relevant, right? They see it all around them. They see how, like, technology has, like, really blessed the business world. And so being able to implement that in my classroom really will make a difference as far as their passion goes. As far as technology enhancing my students' learning, again, I talked about this, but, like, they're able to go and Google and find things out that maybe I don't even know, right? So as long as I'm posing the right questions and planning my lessons with scaffolding and giving students certain websites to start out with, right, and teaching them how to use technology properly, which is another thing that I learned in this class, but teaching them how to use the technology properly. Just because they're good with their cell phones doesn't mean they're good at Googling and finding credible resources and whatnot. So, being able to enhance my students' learning that way, right, is definitely one of my goals for future years. Technology is going to help my students meet learning standards because, first off, there's so many resources. Like when I use Flipgrid and when I use Gimkit and when I use Quizlet and all these different resources, I'm able to actually see all these different reports and numbers. Canvas, it lets me see how long students are active on Canvas, which helps me identify if students are struggling. And I'm able to actually, like, break down things. There's some cool things that I'm working with on Canvas where I have the learning standards put into my Canvas, and so then I can actually tie certain, like, standards and strands to certain assignments. So then I can see, oh, this student doesn't really understand this assignment because they got a 2 instead of a 4. Right, and on multiple of this same standard. So yeah, the technology is just like endless, like all the data. As far as technology helping parents be engaged in the classroom, right? So I'm able to connect with parents much easier than in years past, right? Like I'm able to actually reach out to parents. I can do Zoom calls. I've done Zoom calls with parents before, and I'm able to connect with them that way. I also think that having project-based learning, right, which is kind of what I was talking about earlier, but having project-based learning, I can like send parents like an email and be like, hey, like, here is the document that your child made. It's awesome. You should definitely talk with them about that and give them any words of wisdom, right? And like, I teach financial literacy, and so being able to kind of open up that door with parents and students talking to each other about finances is actually like a really good thing. And so that's really exciting, right? Being able to have technology help parents in the classroom. So if you couldn't tell, I'm super passionate about technology in the classroom, and I'm definitely pushing and trying to help my peers and other people in my department really work with technology and implement technology. And I've got a long way to go, but I'm feeling very excited and invigorated to use technology in my classroom, and I think it's going to really make a difference in my students' lives and hopefully will make me a better teacher as long as I use the proper tools and implementations. So thank you guys, and hopefully this kind of enlightened you a little bit about my class. I do have one thing I was going to close with. So I have this oh, sorry, come on, there we go. I've got this little sheet that I have near my class, or right up at the front, right on my billboard. It's my teaching philosophy, right? So more like teaching philosophy in my classroom. So this is what I wrote a couple years ago. Students would be wanting to buy tickets to my classroom because of what I built. I will build value for my product until my class is the class that every student wants to and needs to take. And then I put Hart Tyler from 2020, the Rona year. So, it's one of those things where I want to create a classroom environment that students would be willing to pay a ticket for, right? Like it's an environment that students don't have to come to my class. They want to come to my class. And I think technology is a key piece to that. I think that without technology, it's really difficult for a teacher to create that kind of environment. And so I'm just excited to see where the future goes. And hopefully you enjoyed all my neon colors, and hopefully, it wasn't like strobe lighting, so hopefully it didn't give anyone any seizures or anything. So have a good day.